MSNBC is using moral outrage to talk about the White House expansion, and Fox is using ridicule to talk about anybody who criticizes it. Hey everybody, I'm Haley. I study strategic communications. Let's sharpen our media literacy skills together. This is How to Push Back. All right, everybody, we're going to break down those clips here in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to look at a couple of guiding questions that I like to ask myself, just a little framework for me to use when I'm watching the news. The first question is, who owns the outlet? So ownership determines what's profitable for them to say, and a company's interests are really going to shape which stories they show and which ones they don't. The second question is, who pays the bills? So in modern news, it's often advertising or subscriptions, and those are really going to reward attention. Attention is the currency. They're going to use emotional framing to get me invested and keep my attention. A lot of times, though, that emotional framing can win out over accuracy. The third is, who's feeding the story? So news is always going to have a source, and I always want to identify that source. Is it a PR person with a press release, or is it a politician being interviewed, or a pundit, or whatever it is? I want to look at what that source is, because identifying that source can kind of show whose agenda is setting the terms. I might know that a contributor on a news channel is paid by a certain think tank that leans heavily one way or another. So of course I'm going to know which, what to expect from that contributor. The next question is, who's fighting the story? So are they showing any friendly opposition in the story, or are they just kind of leaving that out altogether? Or maybe they're mocking the opposition. Maybe they're trying to dehumanize or delegitimize the opposition. So I'm always going to look at that. Who's fighting the story? And then the last question is, what lens is framing this story? So every story is filtered through values. It might be patriotism, it might be loyalty, morality, fear, pride. Whatever that lens is, it's going to reveal the values or perspectives guiding how the story is being told. We're going to use those 5 questions as we look at these 2 clips to just get a little bit more context as we move forward. So here's our first clip from Fox News.
Do you think that people across the country are like hyper focused on the ballroom, or is it just the reporters in the briefing room yesterday?
Oh, I don't think one person, if you go to a soccer game or a barbecue this weekend, tailgate, no one's talking about this except those suffering from BDS, Ballroom Derangement Syndrome. If you suffer from that for more than 4 hours, see your shrink. Look, then President Obama spent $400 million nearly on White House renovations in 2010, and the media wasn't all of it. Jackie Kennedy renovated the White House, and it was so embraced by the media and the public, they actually televised a special on it. It was viewed by 80 million viewers, and Jackie won an Emmy Award for it. So why do I get the feeling that if maybe a Democratic administration was adding a ballroom to the White House, that we wouldn't hear one word from those like Hillary Clinton, who went off on this, talking about the sanctity of the White House and how special it is when...
The phrase that he uses here, Ballroom Derangement Syndrome, this is a textbook example of delegitimization framing, which is a mouthful, but he's using the word syndrome to kind of medicalize critique and imply that the people making the critique are irrational, and he's calling them deranged. This isn't a rebuttal, really. He's not addressing the critique. He's simply insulting and delegitimizing the critic. So then he continues on to use some sort of whataboutism. Instead of, again, addressing the critiques, he is just invoking Obama and Hillary, and he's basically signaling tribal alignment. He's using tone and word choice like derangement and shrink. These things, he's conveying that skepticism equals madness, or at least he's trying to. So the 5 questions applied to this Fox News clip. First is ownership. It's owned by the Fox News Corporation. So they serve a very conservative audience, and they tend to be very loyal to that audience, and so that is going to shape a lot of their content. Their funding comes from ad revenue, cable fees. They tend towards outrage-driven engagement. So it tends to be, sort of outrage that keeps their audiences engaged. And we see that here in this clip. The source, we've got White House allies, some conservative commentators, and they're framing the issue as this sort of media hysteria. We don't see any opposition. They're just using humor to ridicule. And then, so the lens. I would say that the lens is, they're using kind of first a humor, and then a psychological lens. So they're saying criticism is insanity.
I don't know how much currency or attention around the country the demolition of the East Wing of the White House is getting. But there is something in the juxtaposition. I mean, it's a little bit of a let them eat cake moment where the president is building a massive ballroom that presumably will have lots of gold flashed around in it.
You think?
At the same time as people are not getting their food benefits. And the governor of Virginia is even having to declare a national state of emergency in order to get people to have enough food. I mean, there is something there in the juxtaposition. I don't know if this is something that catches fire.
So we see a similar pattern here in the MSNBC clip as we saw in the Fox clip. And that is that emotion is replacing analysis. This is really common in political coverage. So they're using very vivid imagery here and some juxtaposition and moral framing to really heighten moral tension in this clip. So we start out with the anchor's phrase, let them eat cake. So they're kind of invoking, Marie Antoinette and historical decadence, and it's meant to frame the act as elitist and cruel. But then they use words like massive and gold and flashed around, and at the same time, these words to me are signaling imbalance. So they're using this very sensory language, showing wealth through color and texture, and then at the same time invoking deprivation and talking about people going without. And so these are very, to me, deliberate emotional appeals. They're designed to elicit empathy and indignation. So, answering the 5 questions for this MSNBC clip. Ownership. NBC Universal, under Comcast, that's who owns them. They have sort of a liberal-leaning, college-educated audience, and that's going to really influence the tone. Their funding, same thing, comes from advertisers who are targeting that same audience, so civic-minded, college-educated viewers. The source here is journalistic commentary, and then they're using a lot of this demolition footage, and they also brought in some information from welfare reports. So we don't see any opposition featured in this news story. The moral narrative pretty much stands uncontested. The lens is, to me, economic morality. We're looking at luxury versus hardship. We're looking at rich versus poor. What stands out to me for these 2 clips is how they are showing opposite but related rhetorical defenses. So Fox is using this pathologizing language, words like derangement, to insult critics and insulate authorities from criticism. Whereas MSNBC is using moral magnification, terms like let them eat cake, to dramatize inequality. So they're both relying on these emotional shortcuts instead of reasoning. They're creating clarity by removing complexity.